Hi,
Hello,
I'm Julian,
and I am Tom.
and we are the Rings of Power. No. We are Team Binge, here to talk about the Rings of Power. Thank you for joining us. If whatever you press play on doesn't tell you, you're on episode 5, and this episode's called Partings. And it, not surprisingly, has been Tom's favorite episode and what he called the strongest episode of a very strong show. I want to hit the top by saying I did watch the previously on or the recap or whatever because Tom has harassed me mercilessly, so I knew exactly what to pay attention to during this episode. Tom, I know you love this episode, so I told you at the beginning I'd give you at least 15 minutes to really take off and tell us. You said stronger than any of the Lord of the Rings movies, I believe was the quote. So I'm going to give you the floor. Go ahead.
I think you are mishearing me. I don't know if I enjoyed this episode as much. I feel like there was a lot of... This show is at its best when it's like adventuring and action and big set pieces. Like I think that's when this show is amazing. When it tries to do a lot of this like politicking and stuff, especially like the things that kind of go on in Numenor and all kind of the back and forth, like the show is just too slow for me in a lot of these aspects. I think there's some friendships and things that I like a lot, like Durin and Elrond, I think are really cool with their back and forth. But even some of that plotting I thought was a little bit bonkers in this episode. So like I said, I'm still enjoying the show overall. I enjoy talking through it, but there was just a handful of things throughout this episode specifically that, I don't know, just wasn't as enjoyable for me. But I'm glad at least it ends with hopefully like the big dramatic music, the ships leaving the harbor. Like maybe we're going to crescendo into some cool action and some more adventuring. That is really why I'm here.
Yep, I think the strength of the episode was definitely that 3-second shot of the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria as they go off to the new world. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I got 2 out of 3 of those right. But
you nailed it. Those are them.
Okay, wonderful. I have a tenuous grasp of the English language, so based on what I thought you said initially and what you just said, it was opposite because you did not necessarily enjoy this episode. I can only come at this episode with the blind optimism of Ted Lasso, which is, I loved it all. They tried really hard. It's not about winning and losing, Tom. This episode's not about winning and losing. It's just about playing the most beautiful of games. And I am going to do my darndest to push down, deep down, my feelings of this episode and just talk through it. So if you're joining us for the first time, don't. Go somewhere else. If you've been with us on this journey, stick around. It's gonna be a ride. It's gonna be a migration. Speaking of migration, watch this transition, Tom. We start with a Harfoot migration, where Nori is explaining migration to the stranger, who, speaking of tenuous grasp of the English language, the strangler, as I like to call him, and Hope is a self-fulfilling prophecy, talks about, I don't know, what peril means, thinks he's dangerous. Nori's trying to convince him he's not dangerous. They're eating snails. And I don't... is the stranger, the strangler, whatever you want to call him, is he dangerous, Tom? Is he evil?
I think that's what we're trying to decide. Like we kind of get to
the show doesn't know yet.
Yeah, the show may not know. They may wait till season 2 or 3
to figure it out. This is lost. They don't know where it's going.
They're just listening into like fan theories and stuff online and what is the coolest, and that's where they're going to go. Nice. Because I think we've definitively figured out in this episode that Adar is not Sauron. I think that's pretty fair. And I think we're trying to figure out who the stranger is, whether he's a potential good character in like a Gandalf, or say a Sauron. Sauron eventually turns, but he starts as a good wizard. Or is this somebody like Sauron or, something like, because there's a little bit of dark magic kind of going on. So I like the concept here of, the idea of good and evil, and how anything that is evil isn't necessarily just pure evil. There's sides of good and bad in everybody, but I don't know if that's true in like Morgoth or Sauron, because aren't they just supposed to be the epitome of evil? So which again makes me lean towards this not being Sauron.
Sure. There's probably times where Sauron is alone in his, I don't know, tower, and like an orc comes up to him and he's like, "Hey, good job today, man." And that orc's like, "Oh, thank you, Lord Sauron." And then Lord Sauron's like, "Kill all the baby hobbits," or something. Yeah, I'm with you. There is a lot of good and evil people. You heard it first from Team Binge Tom, more specifically. A lot of good and evil people, his words. There's some funny Harfoot banter, and they're really trying hard to make us love these people. I love them just fine. I don't think my love's going to grow any deeper than the surface level that they're giving us. Once again, Nori, the actress that plays Nori, does a wonderful job. I'm sorry that these people are the slowest portion of the migration, but this really just, the whole thing was so we could hear the pipes of the one Harfoot who sings a lovely, lovely song. And then we get a lot of wide shots, and New Zealand just looks great, right? CGI New Zealand or real New Zealand? I don't know. I have no idea if any of this is real, but it looks great, right?
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, you get a big like migration montage to show that they're going quite a bit. I think they actually jump to the map, which I think is kind of cool, and it shows them like I guess traveling south and then to the east. And I really did dig the song. I thought it was really cool, and I thought it was kind of a good thing that you would assume these, nature-loving hobbits or Harfoots would be kind of singing and trying to get through the perils of their journey here. And then what's the line at the end? It's like, what, not all who wander are lost? I think it's cool. Cool line.
Yeah, it's a play off of the old poem from Bilbo Baggins, and so it's not all who wander are lost. But whoever wrote music for this added a little word trickery. So it's wonder and wander. And I only know that because I watch it with subtitles. But Tom, you coined a phrase here. You said migration montage, which got me thinking there's a lot of classic migration montages in film. Would you say that this ranks among the top migration montages for you? I'll give you some other examples. There's this one.
Please.
There's Feifel Goes West, obviously. Everyone remembers the migration montage in that one where he sings, I think, about a star, maybe. I don't know. There's Ace Ventura Pet Detective, number 2, where he is just in the Jeep bouncing along. That feels like a migration montage. And then the last one is Joseph, Prince of Dreams, that other Disney movie about Moses, maybe? Did I get that wrong? Right? Val Kilmer.
I didn't know that
Val
one.
Kilmer's in it. I don't remember the title of that one, but pretty sure there's migration in that one. I would be. I'd bet some money on that. But I've talked too much. Tell me your favorite migration montage.
No, I mean, I think my favorite montage, and I'm going to go ahead and lump this into migration, would be Rocky 4, of him running through the hills and wintry mountains of Russia.
When he migrates from America to the Soviet Union. Yes, that's true. And becomes their
trek.
hero. Yes, that's good. Close runner-up, I would say, is Plane, Trains, and Automobiles. The whole movie's essentially a migration montage. But let's move on from there to, we have this cut where there are some very weird-looking people looking at the stranger's, we'll call it, crash site, which they have to remind us what it is by showing him, like, crashed in the ground again. And I'm going to go on a limb and say, I vote these people are evil. The vibes they give me are in the 300, where it's like the weird, like, soothsayers, the oracles or whatever, That's the kind of vibe I get from these folks. Don't care for it, Tom. Don't know why they were brought into this one scene. And I did notice, I don't think they have elf ears, so I don't know. I vote evil.
I think they were covering their ears. But no, man, they're in white. They can't be evil. They're in white. Movies and history tells us if you're in black clothes, you're bad, like Sauron. If you're in white, you're a good person. But I did do some digging with these folks. So apparently the 3 women that are kind of on the top of the mountain looking down, they all have names, and they're all like title names, not like Mary Beth, Nancy, and Janet, which would have been, I think, much
Would
better.
have been dope. I'd have been like, oh, hey, my aunts are in this. Cool.
They're called the Nomad, the Aesthetic, or the Ascetic. I don't know how that's pronounced. And the Dweller. The Dweller's the one that seemingly is like the leader that has kind of the staff. And then you kind of cut down to the guy that's like at the crash site, who clearly is like, or late 90s, early 2000s Eminem.
Sure. Yeah, he stands
So
out.
it's good to see him getting work.
Almost 50.
But there's obviously ties. There's ties with the stranger. They're like kind of holding a dinner plate. The Nomad, I think, that has the same constellation that I guess the stranger is looking for. So I guess in general, these are just kind of cult worshippers. To your point, they do seem to be up to no good. This, I think, even the aerial shot that we get here, where it shows the stranger in the middle of the fire, and the way it's framed, because the aerial shot, it looks like the eye of Sauron. So again, I keep leaning towards him potentially being Sauron, but I think they're pushing it too hard, and I don't think he is.
Okay.
But I don't know. What do you think?
All of this is new information to me. I did not know that anyone was carrying a dinner plate in this scene, so that's big. Didn't know that Marshall Mathers was a part of this show, which is great. Where did you get the names from? Was it from like when you pause an Apple show and it tells you, I'm sorry, Apple. I'm sorry, Amazon. I'm sorry. It was an honest mistake. Both don't.
Sorry, Business Daddy.
Yeah. Business Daddy. Did you pause the Amazon? Can you just dub in me saying the right whatever we're watching this on?
Sure,
in post?
sure.
Please don't dub my words. Please don't.
No,
How
this
do you
I
know
just
their
found
names?
on like Twitter or something, because I don't think it showed up in like the Amazon X-ray when you pause. They didn't actually give the characters' names, but I think I saw it in some threads on Twitter, and they kind of told about it. I didn't do any more digging than that because I didn't want to get too far into it. But
it's dangerous.
I do like the mystery that this kind of adds, because we've got a lot of stories going on now. I wouldn't argue we probably need more storylines going on, but I do like the idea of this mystery and these characters in the background being introduced so late in the first season here.
Okay, that's good. I don't care for him. Adar is now in the woods, and the show is like, hey, we want you guys to remember that this guy's bad, so we're going to have him inflict pain on one of his own guys, just so you know he's bad. And we're like, okay, show, we got it. Give the orcs some sunblock, maybe some of that sun banana. I don't know what suntan lotion. Banana boat? Yeah, that's the one. The orc's like, hey, boss, the tunnel's complete. And then Adar says something that only Montgomery Burns has the gall to introduce. He's like, man, aren't we all going to miss the warmth of the sun when I get rid of it? Did I hear him right? Is this guy going to get rid of the sun? Is that how you took that evil speech?
Yeah, I don't know what he's playing at here. Like, he may mention in the previous episode that he wants to become a god, or he's not one yet. I don't know the idea of blotting out the sun, and I don't get it. I really don't.
Listen, I recently watched a documentary where the moon disappears. It doesn't disappear, it falls. And I gotta tell you, the moon falling into the earth, pretty devastating, especially for Lexus dealerships and, I don't know, NASA. If the sun disappeared, I mean, I don't even know how we would charge our Lexuses. Go watch Moonfall. Tom made me watch it, and I don't know. All I can say is drink while watching it. So Adar's going to get rid of the sun. That's how I understand that plot. We are then at the tower, and Bronwyn gives just a rousing, I don't know, 2-sentence speech about fighting, and then very quickly loses the momentum of the crowd when that old cranky Sauron lover is like, hey, guess what our ancestors did right? They lived. They didn't get slaughtered to the man. So who wants to live? Chant with me. We want to live. We want to live.
We want to live.
Follow me out the gate. We want to live. Theo, buddy. Theo, come on. Like, Theo's not going to leave his mom. What's wrong with you, cranky Sauron lover? She made a good offer, but cranky Sauron lover made a better offer. Life. Turns out people want to live. They don't want to die like in the Alamo. I don't know.
Yep. Her advice was good, but the cranky old man's was bigger.
I see what you did there. I like it.
What is, like, so the cranky old dude knows that he has this sword, and I would imagine, or the hilt, I would imagine the guy would know of the importance of this. Why did he not try to, like, steal it from Theo?
I don't think this old guy has any idea what he has or, like, its importance or anything.
It's cool.
I also don't think that guy has "don't die on your knees, live on your feet," whatever that saying is. He doesn't necessarily have that tattooed on his bicep, which all cool dudes do. I don't know what that guy's jam is, because he gets himself into a weird situation later on, and no one feels good about it. The guy's just, I don't know. He's meant to bend the knee, apparently. He really wants to bend the knee. Leo stays, I'm assuming? Do we kind of cut here? We assume he doesn't go with the crowd, but I don't know.
Yeah, because he stays, like, and they do the bit later where Arondir, like, confronts him and, you know, kind of has a heart-to-heart moment
that's
with
right.
him. So,
Stepdad teaches him how to shoot a bow, and then takes him down to that weird pizza parlor later. All right. We're then in Numenor. Everyone in Numenor is packing. They're packing in a very organized manner, and that's because Elendil's like, take that out to the ship and take that, and I don't know, that guy went from, like, they were like, we don't know who this guy is, to he's the most important man in Numenor now.
Right. But
plot holes, you know? And you fill plot holes with handsome people, and that's what Elendil is. Isildur's like, hey Dad, I want to go. And the dad's like, you weren't chosen. And the dad lectures him. Elendil is lecturing Isildur. And he's like, everyone else here wants to serve the island and has been serving the island. And he's like, you're just a selfish brat. And Isildur is literally like, hey, I am volunteering. Like, I am trying to go and help. And the dad's like, you've never volunteered for anything. And Isildur's like, no, Dad, I'm literally volunteering right now. Remember when we did that dramatic thing at the end of the last episode where everyone was like, I will serve? I was like the first guy that did it. And then I started, you know, and Elendil's like, you've never raised your hand for anything. I was confused.
Yeah, it was kind of, I don't know, fast and loose. I think the idea,
fast
and we
and
get
loose.
it more clearly. We get it more clearly later. I think what Elendil is just trying to say, like, you have to earn it. Like, this happened to come to fruition, and now you just want to join it because you think it's an adventure. You didn't earn it like your friends and some of the other people did. But his buddy mentions later, which I think is the more fair point, about him potentially abandoning them again. Like, is Isildur just want to go on this for an adventure, and then he's going to get midway through and it's like, oh, I don't want this. He's going to abandon it because he's not seeing something all the way through. I think that's the point Elendil is trying to make. But, yeah, I'm with you. I think he's volunteering. He's telling him, you're never volunteering. It's a bit goofy.
Yeah, it's also a boat ride in one direction, so Isildur's kind of stuck at a certain point. If he's like, oh, hey, you know what, Dad? Kind of cooled off on this whole expedition thing. Can you put me off in the middle of the ocean and I'll just swim home? And he'll be like, you're not Galadriel. You can't swim across the world. And then a whole lot of things get confusing. But anyways, I get what you're saying. I just thought it was a little bit strange. The dad's like, you never eat your broccoli. And Isildur's like, I literally have my mouth full of broccoli right now. Say this guy's name, Tom, the counselor, please, for me.
Ferazon.
The big P-Zone is getting all rebel-roused at, I'm assuming, what is their equivalent of the Senate. Everyone's yelling at him. Tom, say her name, please.
Iarian.
Okay. Wants to stop them from going on the expedition. Why is this? Why is she so hell-bent on?
Goofy. Yeah,
not
like they
wanting them
very
to
quickly
go?
did this whole bit about half the city is divided. Half of them hate this decision, half of them love it, and they have Iarian for some reason be like, oh, you have to tell your dad, talking to like the younger guy, hey, you got to tell your dad, to have him see reason. We got no indication in previous episodes that say like she doesn't like elves or whatever else that I can recall. This definitely seemed like a really quick turn just because they needed one of our major player characters to feel this way.
Yeah, I didn't understand if this just because she knows her dad and maybe her brother are going to go off to war, but like the dad's a ship dude, so he's probably gone quite a bit, and Isildur was supposed to be a ship dude. I refuse to say Sea Guardian or whatever that dumb name is.
Hey, Lasso.
Sorry. Lasso. What does he say? Gravy, biscuits. All right. She then plays with Kemen's. I finally learned this character's name. Kemen's emotions. She's like, hey, you would look really handsome if you got a haircut. And, oh, man, that arm's so muscly. Can you get your dad to stop a war? That's essentially what happens in this scene. And Kemen's falls for it. Hook, line, and sinker. We cut from there. Halbrand's making a dope sword because he's now a blacksmith, and that whole needing a blacksmith guild thing went away real quick.
Didn't Farazan say, like, oh, in 10 days we'll get the ships and we'll go? So he got his blacksmith medallion very, very quickly.
Yeah, sure. I mean, maybe we're missing, like, just this whole... Halbrand has gotten Galadriel to start a war, so there's half the working force. He really did come for their jobs. Now some blacksmith that volunteered to go fight an unjust war on some foreign land gave up his job, and now Halbrand, the guy that just came into the country illegally, took his blacksmith job. I'm just asking questions, I'm not saying this is what happened. Those of us in the media have to ask the questions, right? Is that? Sorry, I've been watching a lot of cable news recently.
Oh boy.
He hands this guy the sword, blade first, and that sword would have been so hot. And this reminded me of the time that Tom gave me a hot eyedropper, and I handed it to our chemistry teacher, and our chemistry teacher swore at me and threatened to fail me because I burned his hand. Did this remind?
He did say specifically not to burn him when we started making these eyedroppers, but ultimately it was your fault.
Oh, it was my fault. I had a moment. I didn't even think about it. He was supposed to check our work. I dropped it in his hands, and he got super mad. And I don't blame him.
Yeah, he was kind of a jerk. I mean, he broke it. It was a really good eyedropper.
Did he break it?
His hand moved and he broke it. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's probably because it was hot glass, Tom. I don't think it was... He didn't, throw it on the ground. And he was like, you will never be a glass blower. And I was wearing a shirt that said, future professional glass blower, or broker, whatever that means. And he ripped my shirt, and then he sent me to pottery class. And that's why I became a potter, not a glass blower.
Yeah, you lost that badge that day.
I did. Oh, man. Halbrand, Queen Regent Muriel, and Galadriel are all looking over maps, and Halbrand's like, oh, they'll probably be here. And Muriel's like, hey, I'm really excited to take this trip with you. And Halbrand's been so busy, just nose to the blacksmith grindstone. He doesn't seem to know about this expedition. He's like, wait, who's going where? Why? What? And then Muriel's like, oh, you don't know? Well, you're kind of an important part of this. And then Galadriel and Halbrand exchange barbs.
Well, I think he knows, that there's an expedition. He's just trying to not go. Yeah. And they have this back and forth about kind of who's using who, and Galadriel's like, oh, people might say I'm using you, or blah, 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 or you're using me. So, I don't know, it's back and forth. It's the kind of same stuff we've already had, I think, in previous episodes. I just didn't think we needed more of.
Sure. Who's using who? We find out that Halbrand, as he said many times, doesn't want to be king. He's just a simple blacksmith, man. Just a simple working man. Just wants to make sweet swords that are cool to the touch, even though they spend all day in the fire.
Yeah, this guy is definitely not Simba. He does not want to be king.
No, he doesn't.
He eventually slams this bag on the table that they've mentioned multiple times. It has this sigil and stuff on it. Yeah. What's in this bag? Is this a coin purse? Does this hold his coins? Or does this have something more sentimental? Why does he wear it around his neck?
I mean, The obviously answer is it's his retainer. I mean, as anyone knows, like if you don't have a specific container for your retainer, if you don't have a container to retain your retainer, you will lose it. Like you set it down at a restaurant, you put it on the napkin, happens to all of us. You lose it in a hotel in Sedona. So it's just a bag with his, I guess, royal retainer.
Royal retainer. Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Which you wouldn't think he would need because his smile is so straight. Let's get back to the migration because we care. The Harfoots. Oh, I had this question, Tom. They can't get like a squirrel or a rabbit or a pig to pull these carts. They've got to go by hand. Wouldn't a pig be about the right size to haul one of these things around? Am I wrong in this?
Yeah, I mean maybe, but I don't know. Are pigs good for like long haul trekking?
They're better than doing it yourself. That's for sure.
They don't seem to domesticate stuff. They don't have like dogs. They don't have other stuff. I think that would potentially get them in trouble since their go-to defense mechanism is hiding under cloaks to try to look like rocks or shrubs.
Maybe that's what that one guy was doing with the bees. He was like, listen, town folks, I've got a great idea. We're going to tie all these bees to the cart. And then he brought everyone out and they were like, oh, here he goes. He's going to show us. And he pulled back the curtain. And then he was like, they're stinging me. There's so much pain.
Your weapons are useless against them.
Bees, save yourself. I'm allergic too. We'll come back for you. That's a great scene. Oh man, we should just watch Tommy Boy. Anyways, what an idiot, as they say. I don't remember his name, but God bless him, he's dead. All right.
The guy that died. Sardik was the one that called him an idiot.
Yes, no. The gentleman that tried to harness the bees. Hank, the bee harnesser. The stranger. Oh, the wolves show up, and the wolves don't look like wolves. They should be called something else. No wolf looks like that. The stranger saves them by slamming.
He does like his best, like Chris. Well, yeah, he slams his hand on the ground and then pushes the dogs, wolves, whatever they are, away. But I was really hoping he would do like his best Chris Pratt impression. Putting like the raptor hands and just like keeping them at bay by just putting hands up. Like, you know, you can do to all animals.
Yep. We don't care about Blue. If there's one thing we've learned, we don't care about Blue. When he looks at his wrist after slamming it into the ground, are we supposed to believe like the magic did that? Because gotta be honest, if you punch the ground really hard, a bruise is going to form, magic or no magic. So did you get an understanding of why he dramatically, like, did he just discover pain for the first time? Do you have any idea what's happening there?
I don't know. And again, I don't know enough about the lore, nor do I probably care. But like we've talked about it when we did the Lord of the Rings rewatch movies, how their magic is more just kind of like force push kind of thing. It doesn't have to like, you don't have to say a spell, you don't have to do it. It just kind of happens. So when he slams his hand down, that is my assumption that it is just bruised, and then later on where he gets like the little ice bath, it just fixes it seemingly right away. Or I don't know if we're supposed to think that okay, it's all black, so it's like some dark magic or something. I don't know.
Listen, if we ever make another t-shirt, the t-shirt should just say Rings of Power. I don't know. That should be the t-shirt. Rings of Power.
It's got a little emoji, a shoulder shrug emoji.
I don't know. I don't know. We're Tom, this is the 5th episode. There's only 6, 7, and 8 until this season's done. And it is a lot of, I don't know. I don't
Listen, I don't mind that necessarily in a show. Like, there's nothing wrong with like doing mystery, but I feel like some of the mystery they're trying to create is just not like fun mystery. I don't know. Like I said, I want to see the season all the way through and see where some of this stuff goes. We had the preview pod about knowing that they want to do potentially 5 seasons. They're writing stuff that could potentially pay off in later seasons. So again, I don't know. Maybe we'll see it. Maybe this will make more sense later.
All right. We're in Numenor. And, oh my goodness. All right. The volunteers are sword fighting. Now, I don't know if we got sword fighting training prior to this. I don't know if they do. You know what? I'm going to call him the Sea Org. That's what I'm not going to say Sea Guard. I'm going to call him the Sea Org, run by one Elron. Were they taught sword fighting in ship class? Because these volunteers are fighting, and the only instruction they seem to be getting is Elendil from down the street going, "Hey, make your dad proud." And it's like, wait, no, someone teach them how to like parry and thrust, and I don't know. And then it's like, oh, but Galadriel's going to teach him how to kill an orc. She's like, listen, I'm going to tell you guys a little secret. You want to know how to kill an orc? You stab it, and then you twist, and you gut. And it's like, oh, okay. I was just gonna,
we're good.
I was gonna gently caress them with the flat part of this. Is this a sword? Yeah, I was gonna hit them with a handle. And then Galadriel like challenges. Listen, Galadriel's a cool character. Once again, actress is fabulous. This scene was just like, hey, we need some sort of action scene in here. We need to like ramp up the music. Elendil's like, if anyone draws blood, you'll get a promotion to lieutenant. Dumb. Because whoever's going to be that lieutenant is going to be in charge of people. And if the only reason they got that promotion is because they got a lucky score on Galadriel, dumb. Everyone goes to watch the elf fight. Isildur's friend, Valandil. The other one is Antamo. I don't know. Valandil gets promoted because he stabs the elf. It's just like, what is going on? There's some, we'll call him a sergeant in the background who's been in the Numenor army for 15 years. And he's like been on the backlog to make lieutenant. And he's like, he went home to his family and he's like, guys, I think I'm going to get promoted. Just time and grade. And then he watched Valandil get promoted because he stabbed an elf. And that guy was like, all right, maybe I'll get it on the next go in 15 more years. I'll make lieutenant. Anyways, I don't know. Their promotion system in Numenor is upsetting and should be revamped. Diatribe
It's
over.
suspect at best. No, I mean, I'm with you. I feel like this is just like lazy writing. It's to your point. They want to have, and I do. I want to see Galadriel fight. I want to see him train. But like the way they went about this was just silly. And I mean, again, they could have just done so much more with her and training. And I mean, the fight sequence, I guess you can say, is at least fun enough. And it's fun to see Morphe Clark, the actual actress, like doing all these own stunts. Like it's that part of it at least is well done. But the storyline and the writing is just silly.
I told Darrett it would have been better if, because she's kind of like tapping them with her sword, like she's like making kind of like foolish,
putting it in front of them.
Putting it in front of them, and they're like, and more than join the fight. I was like halfway through, out of nowhere, she should just start butchering dudes, like lopping off limbs, like stabbing people for real. Like all of a sudden, it goes from fun to Galadriel snaps and just starts, And she's like, look at me, I'm getting promoted too. And she's just covered in blood because she's stabbed so many people. Anyways, that's where my dark sense of humor comes in. Thank goodness we cut from there and get to something important where Kemen is trying to convince his dad, the big Pizan, to stop the war. And then Pizan's like, listen, I'm a politician. I'm always 4 steps ahead. I'm playing 4D chess. He's like, we want the Southlanders in our debt. And Muriel and her dad are old, and the dad's like, hey, don't go. There's only darkness in Middle-earth. Yeah, all of that was fine. I don't care. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, this is what I said at the top. Like all the politicking they're doing, I think there's cool politicking you can do, and I think other shows have done it much better than what they're trying to do here. But like they're trying to put the dark music with Farazan and him plotting over him. So we're like, okay, he's going to be like the bad chancellor guy that's going to, I don't know, be their downfall. But I mean, they're just laying it so heavy-handed with him like scheming in the background. It's silly.
Yeah, he's the bad chancellor that's going to call a global senate, and the global senate's going to nominate him interim galaxy emperor. and that's how the Star Wars episodes all start. I don't know. Oh, thank God we go from there to the migration, where the stranger freezes a pond because his arm hurts, and then he freezes Nori, and Nori gets shot away like a cannon.
Because that's how ice and stuff works. I don't get this. I mean, again, if it's a bruise and he's just like freezing the pond to put ice on it, I mean, that's very fast moving ice. I don't understand does Nori see like some sort of premonition or the future, or is she just scared by the magic? Because it does a bunch of like quick cuts before she just gets flung across the woods.
Well, she grabs his arm because she's like, oh, don't freeze your own arm. She's like, you need to elevate and compress and then follow it with 5 minutes of ice, 5 minutes off. Everyone knows this. When she goes to grab his arm, her arm starts to freeze. She starts to shout. And I don't know. We're just like, okay, the stranger has fire and ice powers, and he can't control either. Also, he has ground punching powers that he doesn't seem to control. I don't know. Rings of power. I don't know.
I mean, I guess ultimately this does fix his arm, and then the trees shake, and we get ominous music again. So, again, I feel like there's something that like Nori got from this. I don't know why she's so afraid. She's seen the guy do magic before. I get that, her hand was kind of caught up in this, and she was a little bit scared. But I also don't know why she's grabbing him in the first place, because he's clearly has some sort of power. He's shown it in falling from the sky. He's shown it in when he grabbed her when he was in the fire. I don't understand the fear and her running away.
Well, she got shot out, of a cannon from an ice arm. So I guess maybe there's a little bit of fear there. But yeah, don't know what happened there. I'm going to move on to the dinner party because everyone loves the dinner party. We've got Durin and High King Gil-galad. Elrond's there. They're exchanging questions. Honestly, this was the best part of the episode, where Durin's like, hey, what's this table made out of? Oh, it's a super sacred dwarf rock. We only use these for our honored dead. And Gil-galad, like a chump's like, I'm so sorry, you can have the table. And Durin's like, sucker. Anyways, that was my favorite part of the whole thing. Do you know who plays Gil-galad?
Channing Tatum's cousin.
Yeah, the guy you said is Channing Tatum's cousin. I think his name is like Benjamin Walker, I think is maybe his name. I always assume all of these guys are like really important British theater actors. He's like a dude from Georgia who did like stand-up comedy. I randomly looked up his stand-up comedy, and it's like very blue, like vulgar, like stand-up comedy. And I was like, who watched this guy at the Laugh Factory at 12 a.m. and was like, hey, all those incest jokes, let's make this guy King Gil-galad. Like, this is our dude. I don't know. I was like, it took me a little bit out of it because I'd only seen him in this, and then I went and Googled him, and I was like, oh, that's a different look for the High King of the Elves, Gil-galad. Not that he doesn't play the role well, it was just a very, like, different ends of the spectrum.
Right.
His stand.
The guy definitely has, like, a presence on screen.
Oh,
He's
he's
a big guy, he has a force, and I do think he delivers these lines pretty well. I'd like the actor.
Yep. And then after dessert, which I'm assuming was some sort of ice cream and butter cake combination, Gil-galad and Elrond walk off into some sort of garden, because wherever there's an elf, there's always a garden within, I don't know, walking distance. They take all of their after dinner discussions to the garden. They discuss a legend where an elf warrior and a Balrog fight, and they're fighting over an elvish tree, and they both strike the tree, and then the lightning strikes the tree. And this makes Mithril, because good, evil, and lightning, when you mix them together and shoot them into a forest tree, it becomes Mithril. And that captures the last light of the Silmaril.
I'm going to throw this out there with absolutely no evidence whatsoever. The way they kind of like shot this elf and made him seem like, I don't know, like important. I'm going to say that Adar is that elven warrior.
Okay.
No evidence, hot take.
Okay. I mean, they could do that and all the Lord of the Rings nerds would lose their minds, but it seems like all the Lord of the Rings nerds are already losing their minds, so they're already in I don't know, Southeast Asia ground war because they're not going to win. We find out that the tree is dying and the light of the Eldar is fading. There's some weird, like, disease on the leaves, and Gil-galad's like, listen, one of the reasons we sent our girl Galadriel away is because all her warmongering was causing these leaves to die. And then it's like, oh, but now that she's gone, the leaves are still dying. So,
our bad. I don't know. I saw this black goo, which made me think of Stranger Things and the Upside Down, which would be a really cool crossover.
That would be a super cool crossover if they just got rid of all the Lord of the Rings stuff and just kept making Stranger Things. Elrond, he's like, so Gil-galad's trying to get Elrond to admit the elves or the dwarves found Mithril. It seems like they kind of already know. Like, Mithril was supposed to be a secret, but all these elves know about it. So it's like, what secret are we keeping here? If everyone knows it's not a secret, I cannot say that enough or too loudly. What is happening here?
Well, in the way Elrond even like replies to it, he like King Gil-galad like clearly asks him like, "Hey, do they have it?" And he's like, "I've been sworn to secrecy, not to say." Oh, okay. So the fact that you're just saying that tells me that okay, yeah, they do. Otherwise, you just say, "No, I didn't see it when I was down there." So like, he's not lying. He's saying he's sworn to secret. It's silly. And even at the end of this conversation, he pulls out of his pocket while Gil-galad is still like 20 feet away. He pulls out the Mithril. He's holding it. Like it's comical. It's just silly.
Gil-galad's like, oh, what do you have there in your hand? He's like, oh, nothing. I didn't know you were still standing right next to me. And yeah, Elrond's like, listen, when Durin showed me that Mithril, I promised him I would never talk about it. So no, I won't answer your questions about Mithril, which I've heard of several times and might have in my pocket. I won't break my oath. I'm an elf of my word. Ooh. All right. The only thing I'll say about this scene that is worth like reiterating and once again getting probably tattooed on my left bicep, maybe my middle bicep, I don't know, would be the line from Gil-galad where he says, hope is never mere, even when it is meager. When all other senses sleep, the eye of hope is first to awake and last to shut. And it was a cool quote about the importance of hope.
I like it.
And then I thought Ted Lasso has a whole episode about how it's the hope that kills you. And I was like, all right, that's a fun juxtaposition of the two. But no, I did like that the delivery of those things. But
this is, to me, like more in line with Tolkien, right? Like this seems like it is straight from his works, and the idea of hope and the importance of hope. I loved it, and there's definitely some great nuggets in here.
Yeah, I would say this show is like every once in a while they either stole something straight from Tolkien and they threw it in the dialogue, and it is so like noticeable, like just in the beauty and like simplicity of what it says, where all the other dialogue is like average at best. I don't know. I don't even know if that's Tolkien, but it was like someone who, I don't know, dropped acid, read all of Tolkien, and then like regurgitated one line that was as close to Tolkien as they could. Anyways,
listen, there's a fantastic line that kind of ends this episode, which I'm very excited to get to.
Okay,
wonderful. From our boy Durin.
We're back in Numenor. All the people are singing because this is about before they all ship off. This is the night before they ship off. I always appreciate a scene where like a group of people like sing a song together. And I truly thought, like, if we as a group of friends ever got together, is there a single song that we could all sing and like in this way? And I would encourage everyone who has friends. If you don't have friends, you don't have to do this exercise. But Tom and I will be your friend. But like, if you sat down with your friends, is there like a single song you would all know and could like sing around a campfire? And the best I could come up with was like "Happy Birthday." I just don't think I don't think we as a like, I don't know if it's just modern people. I'm sure back in the day when you didn't have TV and like radio and all these things, all you had for entertainment is like some guy pulled out his fiddle and you could all like sing the same songs you grew up on. Can you think of a single song that like people would literally be able to sing all the words to, like, together? Do you know what I'm getting at? Like, because shows always do this.
Gotcha.
It's always like a bonding moment where they're like, oh, they all sing together. And you're like, it's such a cool thing, but I'm like, I don't know that any of my friends could all sit down and sing once again, other than
No, I don't think
Birthday.
so. I think it's more like a cultural thing, right? Like in America, we don't go to like pubs. We don't do like, I think of like soccer and sports. Like all these big soccer teams in England, like all of those teams have songs they'll sing. Like I know the one for Chelsea. There's a lot of popular ones for a lot of the big teams and clubs that they'll sing all together in a stadium, and it's absolutely amazing. But I think that kind of comes from them in pubs and in bars and doing like drinking songs and things like that, because it exists here in America, but it's just not as widespread. Everybody in America likes to just sit in the corner and drink their alcohol and beer by themselves and not be bothered.
Well, now that I think about it, there's like, so like if you went to a school and you had a fight song, maybe like at that point in your life, or like if you're alumni who like sticks with the school and like watches every game, like maybe you would know that school's fight song. I think it's interesting to me, the like when you watch shows like this, and I'm gonna go off on a tangent here, but almost like the power of like people singing in unison and doing that. Like if you've ever been at a concert where you all love the band, and like maybe you don't know every word, but you've had enough to drink, like, and there's like, I think there is like some sort of weird energy that happens in that experience. I mean, it's probably psychologically related to like you go to church and you sing songs together, like in unison. There is something about a group of people doing something in unison that is tied to music that I always find a little bit interesting. But I was like, I wish my friends and I went and learned a weird Irish drinking song that when we like went on a camping trip / hunting trip and we were sitting around at night, like there was a Samwise Gamgee amongst us who would start the tune in his beautiful Irish lilt, and we'd take up the song. But that's never going to be happening.
We did play Sea of Thieves for a while. We tried to learn some sea shanties, but we never really settled on one.
We just I just played Heart of Oak, the British Navy song, on my phone in the background. Anyways, singing songs with Buddy. Do it more often. That's my homework to the audience. Go sing with your friends. Maybe that's why people love karaoke. I don't know. This is where Isildur shows up. All of his buddies, this is so typical. One of his buddies is like, I'm going to war. Let's get engaged. We're getting married. And it's like, oh, that's a really good rash decision you made. Isildur shows up to talk to his two buddies, and they make amends in a roundabout way, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's funny back and forth and stuff, like saying like he's my best friend, or they made a bet about whether Isildur was going to ask them for a favor. But I don't know, like, I just hate this trope at the end where instead of his friends, like, forgiving him because he's sincerely apologizing, they need to punch him twice in the face and in the gut and then have him hit the ground and then, oh, okay, cool, we're good now. Like, it's just dumb. Like, it's just stupid masculinity. I've got to punch you to feel better about myself, and then everybody's good. It's again, poor writing.
I didn't think it was dumb at all, Tom. Every time I accept an apology, I punch that person in the face just to make sure they understand it. That's why there's a lot of domestic violence cases currently pending. Anyways, yeah, no, I'm with you. It's always a little bit strange. If he's a good friend, he probably doesn't hit you. Would be my comment. Plus, the guy just got promoted to lieutenant. What's he? I mean, Isildur got him kicked out of the Sea Org, and in like a day he got promoted to an officer rank. So he should be thanking Isildur. He's like, oh, I'd be like the scuttlebutt dude swabbing the deck on ship right now if you hadn't have gotten us kicked out. I'd be reading all those science fiction novels by the big Elrond. Anyways, we cut from there. Kemen is doing some light sabotage, and Isildur's stowing away. Wouldn't you know it? These two idiots are just real dumb, and they blow the boat up anyways. It's like, really, we're gonna struggle over the torch over. I really kind of hoped they both died, because there's a quick cut where Isildur like turns and looks, and then it's like ship explosion. It's like a Michael Bay boom, and I was like, oh, I kind of hope they're both dead. But yeah,
what is in these ships that make them explode with such ferocity?
Gasoline,
like,
man.
I don't know how ships work.
Refined gasoline. They've got gasoline for their horses. What do you think those horses run on, man? That good old American muscle? All them horses just roaring on gasoline. Yeah, I'm with you.
It gets two boats, right? Like, they're seemingly doing this in a single boat, but I guess the remnants of it immediately makes another boat explode in the same ferocity.
Yeah. Oh, man. Real deep investigation here. They pull Kemen and Isildur out of the water, coming from the boat that blew up, and he's like, what happened? He's like, oh, he was fishing at night from a little skiff and just happened to be in the direction when a cask went off. And Elendil's like, story checks out, boys. All right, let's go look for a different culprit.
Promoted.
Promoted. Both of you, lieutenants of the fire brigade. You guys are in charge of fires now. Not putting them out, but setting them. And then we cut to the scene where the queen and the big Pizon is talking, and they're like, the show's like, oh, too many people are going to ask questions about why the boats exploded. So let's just have Pizon say, oh, we think a passing brigand caused it. And you're like, what? Like, there are a bunch of dudes out on the docks. Anyways, I can't do it. The queen's like, oh, maybe I should reconsider since 2 of the 5 ships are burning in the harbor. Oh, by the way, where's Halbrand? Let's reconvene in the morning, and Halbrand better be on board, ready to go on one of the 3 ships that's still not on fire.
Why does she need Halbrand? Like, is she like thinking that she needs to like place him as king? She needs like a royal decree. Like, hasn't Galadriel already convinced her enough? Like, you need to fight for the men here because there's like evil growing.
Listen, I don't think the Southlands is like a legit nation. Like, so I don't feel like when Halbrand shows up, everyone's going to be like, I guess they mention it sometimes. We're like, oh, I'm not the king you need, but I don't feel like when he shows up, all the people are going to rally. But if you go off of Pizon's political, then they need to, I guess, put a king in place so that he sends them ore and gold and horses and I don't know, trade. It's all capitalism in the end, Tom. That's all it comes down to.
Classic.
Good old fashioned capitalism. No, I'm with you. Why do we need, if we're fighting evil, let's go fight evil. Why do we need a Halbrand? I guess we think Halbrand will rally these people to the cause, but once again, every time they say Southlands, I'm like, Southlands, I don't feel like Southlands is a nation. If it is, it's really lazy country naming. They're like, we're south of most people. We're going to be the country of Southlands. That's right, the Republic of Southlands. It's like,
it's actually in the Northeast too.
It's like if a group of territories were like, hey, we're all a bunch of states. Let's just call ourselves, I don't know, we're pretty united. We're the United of States. The United States. Let's call us that. You're like, that's pretty lazy. Yeah, anyways, I love America. From there, we go to the Elven Woods. Elrond and Celebrimbor are talking. And thank you, writers. Turns out Mithril's the only thing that's going to save. Celebrimbor says this like he's a mad scientist. He's like, listen, I've tried everything else. I've taken all these poor elves and I've thrown mithril at them. And as long as we pepper their bodies with mithril, it will heal them from what? I was like, wait, what's happening? So they have to saturate all of the elves in the light of the Eldar, which comes from mithril. Dumb. You know, new shirt, Tom. New shirt rings the power. I don't know. Dumb? Question mark.
Oh man, this episode we've taken a turn on this.
I don't want to hate it. I really don't.
Yeah, this is just silly to me because of the oath breaking. Right? He literally gives the mithril to Celebrimbor and shows it to him. How is this not breaking his word as my bond with Durin here? Like, it's silly. He didn't say, hey, don't just tell the High King. It's don't tell anybody this is going on. And he is sharing this stone with this other guy. It's bananas.
Yeah. He like trips and he's like, oh, and he puts it into Celebrimbor's hand. And he's like, oh, I don't know how this magic stone of the Eldar light got into your hand. Could this be something that would interest you? Celebrimbor, like, this is always like a cheap emotional ploy for Celebrimbor. He's like, oh, hey, you know what? I was there when your dad sailed off into space. And I was like, why do you have to go? And the dad's like, because no one else will, and it's right. And he's like, I wonder if you could be like your dad. And
I did read, again, I'm not going to go deep into this because I don't know the lore well enough, but I did read something that talked about like the series in general does not have a lot of strong like female characters, and they make mention of Elrond's mom like being the one that says, oh, why do you have to go? And
right.
Then the dad is like, because I'm the only one that can do it kind of thing. Just again making the mom just kind of a backseat that's just saying, oh, please don't leave us. When in all reality in the books, I think the mom was like a central figure and did a lot of this stuff with Elrond's father. So again, it's just like, I know they're strong female characters throughout this series that they're introducing, but it just seems silly to take what was a strong female character from the source material and just have her be a MacGuffin to push, Elrond and his father forward.
Sure. I have to disagree with you on strong female characters. Didn't you see Galadriel fighting all those new recruits who have never swung a sword before for like 10 minutes in the middle of this episode? So I think this show's got its finger on the pulse of what strong female characters are all about. Tom, that was sarcasm, by the way. I agree with you.
Nailed it.
Numenor, Halbrand is sweeping poorly, I would say.
Well, I don't know if he's sweeping poorly. He just has the world's worst sweep. These bristles are so far apart. He's trying to like seemingly sweep sand, and it's going nowhere. It's pretty funny. He needs himself a good Dyson.
Listen, this is where there's moments where I realize as a parent I've maybe not set my children up for success. I handed one of my kids a broom, and I was like, hey, go sweep that up. And I watched that kid try to work a broom, and their like arms were in the wrong spot. They did not know how to like move it. And I was like, oh, so sweeping isn't something you just like innately are born with. You have to be taught it. And maybe my parents just had me sweeping at a very young age. But I was like, listen, kid, this hand here, short brushes. Like, and then my kids are the type where they just make it seem so difficult that I'm just like, all right, go. I'll do it. It's not even worth me yelling at you for. So that's a parenting failure on my part. Anyways, Halbrand apparently needed a little bit of a lesson. Galadriel shows up. She's like, hey, listen, you got to join us. Halbrand's like, no, my side worked for the evil side. And Galadriel's like, I can fix you. Just look into my eyes. I don't know.
He's given the haunted past story. Like, he's like, there's more to me. And yeah, he's very similar to Adar, I think, in this aspect.
Yeah. Galadriel. Listen, Galadriel keeps fighting because she cannot stop. That's what she says in this scene. Like, we get this very dramatic. She's like, I cannot stop fighting. They thought they could not distinguish me from the evil that I was searching for and fighting, so they banished me. She's like, I can't stop fighting because I cannot stop. And I was like, I was like, what? It was confusing.
It's a bit silly. Yeah, like it was even filmed weird. Like she says like I cannot stop, and then she walks away from like Halbrand, and like the camera now like she's got his back turned to him. Like it's like a soap opera. But I mean ultimately I think what they're getting at here is just she is vengeance and she needs to seek vengeance for her brother, and that's why she can't stop. But the way it's delivered I think is just comical.
It would have been better if she would have butchered all those recruits in the city. And like in this scene, she's still covered in blood. And she's like, listen, earlier today, I was training some recruits. I murdered all of them. I couldn't stop myself. He's like, why can't you stop fighting? She's like, I can't stop fighting because I can't stop. And you're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. She's covered in blood. She's pretty terrifying. But she's like, listen, together with your haunted past and my can't stop stopping, which I think is a... the pop star HBO spoof with Andy Samberg, Can't Stop Stopping, is Galadriel's theme song. Anyways, she's like, listen, we've got to go fight in order to earn our peace.
Which is an interesting, juxtaposition. We have to fight to get peace, which I guess is fair in war. But it reminded me of Aldous Snow, I think it's his name, in the Forgetting Sarah Marshall franchise. He's got like a line from his We Gotta Do Something song, where it's like fight back against violence, which is just, it's brilliant.
That character in Forgetting Sarah Marshall is incredible. The Southlands, the Tower people, they walked over all the way to Adar. They like swear allegiance to him, and he's like, listen, I'll swear to you. You are Sauron, aren't you? And he's like, and clearly he's not Sauron, because then he's like, well, whoever you are, I'll swear to you too. And then Adar's like, listen, if you want to join the club, you got to get a little stabby. And so we have Waldrig, who is old cranky Sauron follower, about to stab Rowan, the guy that left Theo on his own in the town. And so this confirmed to you that Adar is not Sauron.
I mean, I think so. I think otherwise the show wouldn't do this. If you're really going to say this guy is Sauron, then just call him Sauron. Like, there's no need for him to be coy about this. But, like, he gives a line, Adar does, about, like, only blood can bind. And that's where he holds up Rowan and says, like, more or less says, hey, you got to kill this guy. I don't know. I feel like there is more to that. The idea that this hilt of the sword needs blood to be able to bind to it. I don't know. Is this guy's Adar Sauron's stepbrother? Do we have, like,
I don't know.
Dale and Brennan?
Dale and Brennan. This guy's probably more like Derek, successful, hasn't had a carb since 2005. Well, he doesn't give him the hilt to that sword, right? Theo's still got the magic sword. He just throws him like a dagger that he's going to stab.
Well, but yeah,
Rowan
he
with,
gives
right?
the line, though. Adar says the line, only blood can bind. And that was his line to say, hey, you've got to kill this guy. I don't know what they're going at here, but I thought it was supposed to be a meaningful line and we're supposed to take something more from this.
I thought this was just another point where the show was like, hey, the audience may have forgotten that Adar's the bad guy, so let's show that he's a bad guy. And he's not just going to let you, like, swear fealty. You've got to prove it. And you got to prove it by stabbing the one able-bodied young man here. I would have turned that stuff around. I would have been like, Rowan, you're probably going to last this a little bit longer. Why don't you stab this old man to prove? But that's probably not as dramatic. So, anyways, I don't even know if they ended up getting stabby here because we cut away because this show... This show dances the line of, which I appreciate, because once again, if kids are in the room, it's not like that big of a deal, but it also, sometimes you got to commit to a little bit of violence or evil if you want to, I don't know. I just missed when Aragorn could cut off an orc's head, and it was still a PG-13 movie, We could watch him break his toe on screen, and the parental guidance thing didn't pop up. Anyways, Theo does archery. His new dad throws the baseball with him. His new dad is Arondir. Arondir is like, you got to lift your aim. What does that mean? You've got to lift your aim. Like, is he just telling him you're shooting too low? Because I don't think that was the issue. You have to lift your aim. This was like something where they're like, hey, I don't know. You know what? I'm not going to say anything more because all of the archers in our audience are going to send me angry emails at teambingepodcast@gmail.com where they're like, hey, lift his aim is when the arrow and the bow and I don't know. Anyways, I'm sorry. You probably all don't sound like that. Don't shoot me with arrows. If you do lift your aim, he's then like, hey, thanks, Dad, for spending time with me. He's like, don't call me Dad. How great would it be if Theo's like, Dad, and Aaron, just don't call me Dad. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you allowed to laugh that hard at your own joke? Oh, that was bad. I apologize. Cut all that out, Tom. He gives his new dad the hilt, and the dad's like, oh, I've seen this before because I've been around for 400 years. It's identical to this sword in the stone carving.
It just happens to be literally right here. Like, it's just, I don't know. Is this supposed to be like Morgoth that's carved into this stone? Like it was a monument to him?
No, it's a picture of Spawn. Do you remember the old comic Spawn?
Oh, okay.
Maybe it's the Punisher mask? I don't know, Tom, I don't know. Read my shirt, man. I don't know. Oh. It's a key. Like, there's certain times they jump to conclusions in the show. Like earlier when Arondir is a prisoner and they're looking for something. They're looking for a weapon? I bet they're looking for a weapon. I was like, okay, so they're probably looking for a weapon show? And then in this one, he's like, oh, it's a key. I was like, no, it's the hilt of a sword, not a key. Mm-hmm. I don't know what locks you've been picking. And he's like, and Theo must have what it needs to be activated. And I was like, yeah, his bodily fluid, which I wouldn't ask a teenager to give up too much bodily fluid to activate a key, but what do I know? Anyways.
I don't think Theo was anything special here. I think he just says that he knows that Theo has the hilt at this point. Because, like, Theo escaped and all that kind of thing. So I don't think he's special, but, I mean, who knows?
I don't.
But does the sword... I sure don't. Does the sword, like, is it supposed to, like, turn you into Sauron? Does it make you evil? Doesn't, like, Sauron already exist in this world somewhere? I know we don't know it because the show hasn't told us, but...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It does.
I was thinking it was a key to turn you into something.
He does exist somewhere. Where that is, we don't know. It would be super funny if the sword is the spirit of Sauron, and if you're the right person that stabs it into your forearm, you then become Sauron. I don't know. This is so great because Bronwyn all of a sudden is like, you know what? Let's surrender. I'm out. We're done. I was like, wait, what? You were the one that gave the Independence Day speech about not going quietly into the night. And now you're like, you know what? Now that you've found that sword and all those other dudes left, all the old people, half of them left, we are in trouble. I quit. I was...
It was a turn. It was a turn. They eventually look up at the tower because I think Arondir or somebody mentions like if they're gonna keep attacking till this tower will fall, and they look up at it, and it can give some ominous music at the end of the sequence. Is the idea that they're gonna like take out the tower? They're going to collapse it. They're going to destroy it on the orcs. They're seemingly high above said orcs. I don't know. I feel like we're gonna get something with this tower.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so. They've spent so much time there. Although Bronwyn is, I don't know. There's something. There is something about Bronwyn. I want this character to be awesome. I did not want her to give up. I wanted her to be the one that was like, listen, everyone, get your bows and arrows, lift your aim, because that's something, and the orcs are coming. Like, I wanted that from her. I also want her to not be in kind of a, like, modern workout top. I don't know if the wardrobe on Bronwyn, if you catch this, but, like, they shoot her from, like, the waist up a lot of time. And I'm like, that's, like, a modern, like, workout shirt that you're wearing. And then they, like, back out, and I'm like, no, that's a dress. I don't know. I don't know if her Anyways, I wish she would be in Galadriel's suit of armor all the time. That would be awesome. But
That is really
anyways, the orcs are marching, and then we're in the Elven Woods. Durin's laughing about stealing that table, which so good.
Fantastic.
So
Love
good.
that.
Just make a show about Durin stealing things from people or like tricking them into giving them up. Elrond is troubled. Durin's like, speak. Durin's like, listen, I'm going to hop on this rock so we can shoot this scene easier so that I don't look so much shorter than you. He has a line, Tom. He has a line. Do you want me to say this one, or do you want to
Please.
do it?
Do
His
it, Jimmy. Speak
line,
plainly.
as he's trying to get Elrond to speak plainly, he says, "Enough with the quail sauce. Give me the meat and give it to me raw." Which is straight out of Tolkien, right? This is
I
a
was gonna say,
Tolkien.
that's gotta be. I
Enough-
know. I love this line. I thought it was very funny. I feel like the first time I kind of missed some of it, but because the general idea being that dwarves were more plainly spoken, and Elrond always kind of speaks in riddles or speaks like so high elfish or whatever. But looking back at it now, I think this just perfectly sums up like the pacing of this season so far. Like enough of this like slow politicking stuff. Like get to what I'm here for, which is the adventure and the action. And I don't know. There's just it's been way too slowly paced in the last couple episodes. They need more.
Yeah, they need more. They need to move quicker. Enough with the quail sauce show. Give it me the meat and give it to me raw.
That's a t-shirt too.
That's a t-shirt too. Unfortunately, that's probably already trademarked. That's Amazon's new slogan. Enough with the quail sauce. Give me the meat and give it to me raw. 2-day shipping. All right. The elves, we find out during this conversation, need to leave or they're going to diminish without Mithril. By the way, Durin should be fine with this. He clearly doesn't love elves. And so when they're like, listen, we're all going to become mortal and die, Durin should be like, yeah, welcome to the club. I'm sorry that like you were immortal and now you're not, but guess what? The majority of the rest of us don't live forever. So welcome to the club. It's really tough to feel bad about an immortal complaining about becoming mortal. Yeah.
Well, and that's where I'm confused about their immortality. Like, do they truly live forever without the light of whatever else they need? Or they do need some form of some magic to keep them going? Like, they procreate, right? They make more elves? Or the elves that are currently there are the only elves that exist?
Listen, I'm going to send you some video clips about elves procreating, Tom. Don't open them at work or on your work laptop, but
Okay.
I've got some for you. They do procreate because there are children of elves. The other thing is they go to the land of the Undying. That's where they sail off to, and then they live forever. So really the thing here is like, oh, let's just all get on our ships a little earlier than we normally would and go to the Undying lands. Like, they're not going to stay in Middle-earth forever anyways. That's what happens in Lord of the Rings. The elves are all leaving these shores and going to the Undying lands. It's the Age of Men now. So, I don't know. Durin is super excited to have the elven race, the fate in his hands. He makes Elrond say it over and over again. And then he's like, all right, but we got to agree, or we got to go get my father to agree to help.
And then they're like walking away. They do like their little quips and jokes about like, oh, say the table's from me or whatever. But they do this cutback, which is exactly what Elrond did to Disa and Durin in the cave, where Gil-galad is just hovering over and appearing to hear this entire conversation going on. So, I mean, again, just the awareness if this guy is really there listening to all this. And again, this is cheap TV show making where you need this character to know about this, so just put him in the background to hear this exact same conversation.
It's all great. It's all great. I love every moment of it. Give me more. Pump it into my veins. Let's finish this off, Tom. We're back in Numenor. Halbrand.
Yeah, and Halbrand's kind of struggling here, right? Like, he's at the blacksmith shop. He's guards got to come in. They kind of call him and say, "Hey, the queen needs you." I think he puts down his little baggie of
retainers.
What did you say it was? Retainer, yeah. Yep. He puts his retainer container down, and we think, oh, okay, he's not going to fight. And then 2 seconds later, he picks it back up. We're like, all right, he's in. And then it does a quick cut of him in some dope armor.
Yeah, because he's like, listen, if I go over there, it's going to be a couple of months. If I don't wear my retainer, who knows what's going to shift, Because if you don't wear your retainer, they'll shift back to the way they were.
Mm-hmm.
How do orthodontists stay in business? That's exactly why. Because people forget their retainers, their teeth shift, they got to get braces again. Boom, it's all a crock. It's just a self-fulfilling.
Retainer runs out of battery after 2 years. You got to go get another one.
Exactly. Although I have known they've started doing lithium retainers, which last longer.
Ooh.
And spontaneous combust sometimes, which makes it a little bit weird on the teeth. Everyone looks great in their armor. Everyone. We get these beautiful shots of everyone in armor.
It's really what it is. It's like everybody just went and upgraded their armor. So it really looked cool. We get, instead of white leaves falling, we get a bunch of red petals from flowers falling. So I'm assuming this is just the red face cream falling from the sky.
Yep. That's the fall. What we release in the fall for windburn, cold skin. That's what we at teambingefacecreams.com.
Not to be confused with teambingecrystals.com.
Yeah, sure. That's a different one. Just depends on how much you believe in magic and whether or not it's real. Isildur is a soldier now. Doesn't need any training. Just needs a suit of armor, and he's on board.
Yeah, it's good to see nepotism is still alive and well.
Still alive and well. But oh no, there's a twist. Isildur joined the cavalry, but he gets to sweep the stables. Hey, I'm going to say this probably more than once in my life, but if you're getting onto a boat, don't wear your armor. This is just some advice from someone who knows how to swim and has a fear of drowning. Don't get on a boat in armor. I mean, it doesn't take much for a little bit of a slip. You go overboard and you're not swimming in that stuff. So
yeah, I get it's all ceremonial, but yeah, it does not seem very, very safe and sound.
No, it does not. They should all be wearing those orange neck life jackets around their neck. The ones that you pull the ripcord and it explodes. I think that's what that does. Galadriel looks great. Speaking of suits of armor, she shows up. This is the show's listen, all of these episodes only serve for these certain shots, and this is one of those shots where it's Galadriel looking awesome.
Rip straight from the trailer for sure. And this isn't elf armor, right? This is just Numenor armor made for her. So it's nice to see that she can get this fashioned rather quickly in 10 days, just specifically to fit her. But then we get this classic forearm shake from Halbrand and Galadriel. So I guess all is forgiven. All of this stuff, all this back and forth, it was just to get to this point, and we're good to go. Everybody's good.
Yeah, two things. One, the handshake is just like when Arnold and Carl Weathers shake hands in The Predator. That's exactly what this is, shot for shot. Watch them side by side. It's unrecognizable which one is which. The second thing I'll say is her armor was 100% made by Halbrand. That's why he kind of winks at her, and he pulls her in and he goes, "It's made of mithril." And Galadriel's like, "But that doesn't make any sense because we shouldn't know what mithril was." Halbrand looks into camera and then cut. End of episode.
Wink.
And I already made my Nina Pinta and Santa Maria joke. So every kid in the world, as these ships sail off, knows what they're called.
Straight from the trailer, though, with these three boats with the really cool sails taking off into the distance. And again, very epic music. I'm really hoping this is going to crescendo into some sort of fun, epic adventure for the next episode. Unfortunately, I think we might just get them on the boat, hanging out. I don't know, playing liar's dice. Galadriel will go for a swim. Who knows?
Just gambling below decks. It's an episode where Galadriel develops a drinking problem. We discover Halbrand's got a gambling problem. Someone gets murdered. It's a bottle episode on ship where they've got to find out who murdered who. That would be pretty dope. Yeah, so that was episode 5. I'm going to watch all these episodes. It looks great. It's well acted. It's just got holes. And I'm not even attacking it from a lore perspective. I'm just, looking at it holistically as a show of like, if it wasn't tied to Lord of the Rings, would I watch it? I would probably put it in the category of Wheel of Time, like the Wheel of Time series Amazon released. It's a fantasy show. I never read those books. So like when I tried to watch it and it didn't really like hit home, it was kind of like, okay, I'm not going to watch the series. I kind of feel like if I wasn't tied to this show through Lord of the Rings, I don't know that I would continue to watch it.
I'm with you. I do. You've mentioned many a time, like fantasy is difficult to do, and you have to kind of toe that line of being too fantastical and still being grounded. But I don't think that's this show's problem. I think the show does a decent job of like keeping the fantasy elements, to a point. But it's just, to me, a lot of like lazy writing and taking this source material, which is fantastic source material, very dense source material, but they're tweaking things that I don't think they necessarily needed to. And again, I don't know enough about it, but it does kind of feel like a fantasy show that is resting so much on its budget and how everything looks and is acted great, but has some work to do in its writing and execution.
Sure. Yeah, that's not to say it won't like pick up. Like it's got 3 episodes to go in this season. Like if we get some epic battles, like if we get, not that I just need violence, but I think those like plot points in a show can simplify it a bit in terms of, we're building up towards a big battle. If we go like episode 6 and 7 and then 8 is the big battle, I'll be a little bit disappointed just because I want more from this. And like some of the fun parts of the Lord of the Rings trilogy are those, it's Helm's Deep, it's the Fields of Pelennor. So yeah, I'm gonna watch it all. I don't hate the show, and I don't feel like you need to be at a place where you either like hate it or love it. I'm middle of the road on this. I'm gonna watch it. I enjoy it. I enjoy talking to you about it.
For a show called Rings of Power, there's a lot of lack of rings.
There's legitimately no rings, Tom. Which is interesting because it's like, are they going to take mithril? Like, to your point, are the rings made of mithril? Is that what we're going for? Is like that where that power is going to come from? Halbrand being a blacksmith, does he have something to do with building these? We thought it was Celebrimbor, and I think the lore would say Celebrimbor is involved in making them, but despite the fact that the first time we see dwarves building a tower, they seem like they were almost finished. We haven't gone back to that tower. I don't know. I'm interested to see where it goes. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. And we appreciate all of you joining us as we talk about this show. Stick with us. We'll watch all of them together. If you've got gripes or complaints or corrections, you can email us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. There it is. I've got it. Tom will give you our other handles. We are on Twitter. And let's go to our recommendations, Tom, because that brings me to Twitter. I'm going to recommend watching the movie Roadhouse. I watched Roadhouse for the first time in a long time. It's Patrick Swayze. It's Sam Neill. Am I right on that?
Okay. Sam Neill, Sam O'Neill, I don't know.
The old cowboy himself. I think I've probably got his name wrong now that I think about it. But it's a great movie. Go watch it. I tweeted. I got a hold of our Twitter, and I started tweeting about it. And Tom woke up the next morning and was like, "What are you doing?" So I'm not going to say I was sober while watching Roadhouse, but I had just a heck of a time. It's just I don't know. It's a great movie.
I don't know if I've seen that all the way through. Is it like a good bad movie? Is it a bad movie that was, more enjoyable because you were playing a drinking game with it?
It's better than it has any right to be. It's surprising at moments because it takes some of these things. So the premise is this, Tom. He's the greatest bouncer in the world. And he goes from rough bars to rough bars, fixing them. But he's his mantra is like, everyone be kind. Just be kind. You don't have to rip a guy's throat out until it gets to the point where you have to rip a guy's throat out. But and he's doing Tai Chi and stuff. It's Roadhouse. Just go watch it. I would recommend it to anyone but my parents at this point in my life. But yeah.
Nice.
Anyways, Tom, do you have a recommendation? Something you've been enjoying these days?
Something I've been watching, and I've heard a lot of great things about this. My brother specifically has been pushing this on me for a while now, and I've always thought it's a good show. I just never gave it the time, and I am not very far in it. I think there's a handful of seasons, but it's For All Mankind from Apple TV Plus. It's kind of the idea. It's got a rewriting of history. What if the Russians landed on the moon before the Americans? So it kind of plays on that, but it still follows a lot of the same kind of characters back then with Neil Armstrong and the leaders of NASA and everything. But very cool show. I like that kind of show, similar to that show Man in the High Castle, I think,
Yeah.
another Amazon show.
Yep.
Which kind of twisted history. So it's fun, and I love the kind of old nostalgia of that time period in late or early 70s. So again, haven't seen too many of them, but from what I've seen, I've very much enjoyed and can't wait to keep going.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's good to know. I mean, I'm not going to watch it because America, and I refuse to watch where the Ruskies win. But I can understand the recommendation. I had his name wrong. His name's Sam Elliott, the Marlboro Man himself.
Sam O'Neill is the
Elliott.
Jurassic Park guy.
Sure, that's right. Yeah, he's not in Roadhouse. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. I have been Julian.
And I have been Tom. Till next time, everybody.